Hey everybody, I'm Joel Stottlemyre. I'm the founder of the Dryden Experiment and the owner of Dryden House Publishing. And this is our weekly hangout. Now, it may seem curious that we're all here to hang out and I'm the only one here. Things happen. It's the holiday. It's the new year. We had Eugene and Dan with us last week, and we decided not to broadcast because Tracy wasn't available, and she's the one who keeps the schedule. And then this week, Tracy has a blown circuit breaker or fuse or something in her house, and so she's not here. But I'm going ahead with the broadcast, and if somebody jumps in, that's awesome. And if not, then here I am on my lonely New Year's, being all sad. All right, so just a real quick look at what the Dryden Experiment is and what this hangout is about. The Dryden Experiment is a Creative Commons publishing concept. What we do, we take settings and environments, whole universes, and we build them, and we give them aliens if it's spaceships, and ghoulish monsters if it's horror, and so on and so forth. And then we put all of those materials that we've created underneath the Creative Commons BYSA 4.0 license, and make it available to everybody. So what happens is for example, in our science fiction universe, we built Faster Than Light Travel Rules as sort of a rough outline of history, and we started inviting authors and artists to come in and participate. And all of those folks are free to create their own materials, develop their own books, their own games, etc., etc. All they have to do is also put their material under the Creative Commons license. And so we're growing these really big, vast, in the case of the science fiction universe, really big, vast role-playing, fiction, game environments that are totally available to everybody without any licensing requirements, except that you also put your materials under those same license and acknowledge that they came from us, that they came from the Dryden Experiment. Well, what's happened is we have, I'm not sure now, 6 novels, and a role-playing game in the I guess it's 5 in the five novel. No, that's not right. It's 7 novels and a role-playing game in the science fiction universe, and then sort of a scattering of books out in the other universes that we're developing. And it's really cool. It's growing like mad. We're having a lot of fun, except on New Year's when nobody will come hang out with me, because it makes me sad, and that's all there is to it. So with all of that said, then I own Dryden House Publishing, and what we do is we provide publishing services to folks who are participating in the Dryden Experiment. We do book layouts, we do book covers, we do promotions, so on and so forth. 100% in support of Dryden. We don't work with anybody else. We don't work anywhere outside of Dryden. So I did that on purpose. I started this cool environment, and then I set up a little company on the side to service it. But we have a lot of fun. It's a great place to play. And every week we get together, or most weeks we get together, and talk about what's been going on, except that this week I'm the only one, and I'm so sad right now. And really the reason why this makes me so sad, once upon a time, a couple of years ago, every month or every week it was only me, because I was the only one who was participating, and now we have 30-some people participating, and that's a lot better. All right. But the thing that's really sad about all of this is that Tracy Vincent is our chief editor, and she does all of the scheduling. And so I'm now going to tell you everything that we have planned and when we have it planned, and that's going to be a little bit sad. So let's just deal with the sad. First, look at the awesome t-shirts, look at the posters, Dryden Experiment stuff. Gorgeous. What a wonderful thing that we do. All right. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to kind of go through the things that I'm worried about right now, because I don't know everything that Dryden is doing. I don't know all the promotions that we're running. Tracy is my saving grace, and she's not available, which, you know, if she ever falls off the planet, we're just going to have to shut down. So that's sad. So I'm going to go through the sort of the things that are tops on my list and where we are with them. And then if I fail to cover anything that anybody's looking for, leave me a comment below, and I'll come back and check, and I'll get you updated, or stop by the Dryden Author and Artists page on Facebook and send a message there, or a message directly to me through there, and I'll get you caught up if I'm missing anything critical here. So the first thing that's going on in my universe is the Big Damn Space Battles, which is being designed by Owlman Press out of Ballarat, Australia. We've had some early play tests, and there's a lot of things we're going to change, but that's the point of early play test. And we will be launching the Kickstarter, I want to say on the 8th, if we can get it together. 8th of January. Big Damn Space Battles comes out of a conversation that Nick and I had. I love the miniatures games where you move all your soldiers around the board, but our model just doesn't really leave us with enough resources to build 10,000 little minis to start a mini game. And Nick said, well, why don't you do it as a card game and print your spaceships on cards and then move them around the table like that? So here we go. And that was a really great suggestion, and we were all really happy to have that. We want to start that Kickstarter, I think, on the 8th. We have seen sample art from all three of our artists. We've got three fabulous artists. Don Van Osdal, who has worked with us before, is doing work. Sorry, I suddenly had this huge head. Don Van Osdal, who has worked with us before, is doing some great work. Charlotte Garnier, who is the inventor of the Il Solitaire, is back and is working on that project. And we have an exciting new artist named Kat Haywood, who will be drawing for that project. Gavin Revitt, for those of you who know Gavin, is our art director, and he will be providing overall art direction. So Big Damn Space Battles is looking awesome. For those of you who are familiar with the science fiction universe, the three big corporations will be in the core rule set. That's Lynn, TerraCore, and Cirque. And each one of those three artists will be representing one of them. So we've seen draft art. It looks really exciting. We're looking forward to getting the Kickstarter started. If you would like to play test, please drop us a line, drydenexperiment@yahoo.com, or stop by on Facebook and let us know. We've got 3 playtest groups running right now, and we'd love to have some more. Writing a mini game is a first for me, and it's a first for Nick, and he's doing a fantastic job, but the more iterations we can get of that playtest, the stronger it's going to be. So we definitely want to do that. The next thing that's coming, we've been talking for a long time about wanting to start a Nightmares universe and wanting to start a horror universe. And we are underway. Yesterday was rough draft day for our first book, which may be called like Prelude to the Nightmare or Prequel to the Nightmare. It was really interesting when we got all of the content. Most of the authors wanted to work on larger projects and wanted to give us kind of sample material. Oh, here's the thing that I would like to do. Here's a teaser. Here's an intro. And so the work that we actually have, well, let's stop right there because Eugene Kelly has just joined us. Eugene, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Hey, he's there. All right. Well, Eugene, we're just talking about Nightmares. So let's just jump in. I'm going to back up a little bit. Eugene Kelly worked with us for the first time on our Rise of the European project and is now active on Nightmares. And Eugene, it's just you and I at the moment. So I'm just going to back up and talk a little bit about what's going on with the Nightmare project. Draft day was yesterday, draft material day. So did you get your draft in on time, Eugene?
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Eugene had his draft material in well ahead of time. It was awesome. We were really glad to have it available to look at. What we found, Eugene, and this is sort of a conversation that's going on right now, it's not entirely sorted, is that almost everybody who participated wanted to send us a sample of something larger, sort of an introductory project, a teaser for their larger project. So, for example, Fluffy and Laura, and I'm leaving out a name, sent us stuff that was like the first chapter of a larger story. Oh, me, I'm the other one who did a teaser. And so we're sort of talking about now how we want to stage that book. We may go with a name like Nightmares Prequel or Intro to the Nightmares or something that sort of uses that book to set up later projects. So expect to hear from me maybe in about a week about what we're going to do, because we're kind of doing a little bit of posturing and talking about what we're going to do. But you are in there with the introduction and Otoanju, is that right? I think that's
yes.
And I want to take a minute and pre-pimp Otoanju for those of you who haven't read it, which would be everybody on the planet except me and Eugene, I think. Otoanju is a really enjoyably creepy story, and I'm really happy to have it. So the Nightmares project has passed its initial submission date. if you are working on a project in Nightmares and you haven't gotten it to us yet, do go ahead and send it. We will still look at it. There will just be scolding and throwing of cold water later. But as long as you're prepared to face that, we would still look at a story that you brought. Then the next thing I wanted to talk about is the website. We are 80% of the way done with the text edits. We have not moved the website address over because that's a job that I was supposed to do and I haven't done it yet. But soon we will have a working matched backup website like we did for those of you who were here 2 years ago in the very early days. The very first thing we did was build a nice website and then ignore it until it went away, and now we're trying to get that back. So we are making good progress, but we have not domain name parked. We have not moved the domain name, so it's still parked over a dead spot where there's no data. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and Eugene, I am just sort of going through what I know. Tracy blew this circuit in her living room, and it like actually has to be replaced. It's not just the circuit breaker. So she's not with us this evening. So I'm just sort of fiddling around in my brain trying to figure out what date things are because I no longer know because Tracy does all that for us. So if you're wondering why it is that I'm just sort of wandering around, there's madness to my method. So Alder's World 3, which is the third part of the book that I'm publishing in the Dryden science fiction universe, is due out in April, and the draft is coming along nicely, if I have to say so myself. The other thing that's happened with that project that I'm really, really excited about, and I think will go well, is that Kitty Sarkozy and I are working together on an expanded version. One of the things that's true about my writing, if you've read it, is that I write very, very fast. I don't mean write fast, but it reads very, very fast, and I tend to write very, very efficiently. I'll write 50,000 words and tell you I've told you 60 years of somebody's life. And it's, wow, well, where were the other 30 years? And Kitty is a very humanist writer. She writes these really sort of interesting human stories in ways that I enjoy reading but don't write. And we have been talking about maybe at the start of 2017 coming out with a sort of a combined version of Alder's World that's a larger vision for Alder's World. So definitely look for Alder's World 3, look for sales of Alder's World 2, and of course Alder's World 1 is always free, but watch for those ahead of the release of Alder's World 3 coming in April. Rise of the European will go on sale in the third week of this month. I don't remember the date, but I remember that Tracy said third week. What happened with Rise of the European, we launched it on Black Friday, and that was my call, and it was a mistake. We got buried. And we didn't have solid projections of how we would do, but whatever our projection was, we came in below it. We really got hammered pretty hard. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a 99-cent sale on the e-version, both on Smashwords and on Kindle, and we will have little banners for our authors and reviewers to post up around Facebook and anywhere else to let people know that that 99-cent version is out there. Rise of the European is a story from our science fiction universe written by Eugene and 5 other artists or authors that tells the story of the day that the creature that lives on the bottom of Europa woke up and decided it didn't want humans on the planet anymore. Eugene wrote the actual experience of the European, which was a really interesting project. So very interesting perspective for that story. So that was very enjoyable. Yeah, I actually like Otuanju better, but you didn't hear me say that. Not of the whole Rise of the European. I just think that Otuanju is the best thing of Eugene's that I've ever read. All right, so enough about Otuanju. The other thing that's coming up, you know, we have our role-playing game out there, Big Damn Dryden, 2503. The introductory version is free on Smashwords, and in support of that, we are working for the first time this month with an organization called Myth Horde. I want to call Myth Horde out. I think everyone should stop what you're doing and go Google Myth Horde, unless that means stopping this video, in which case just pause it for a minute and go Google Myth Horde and then come back. But Myth Horde is this really cool concept. Once a month, they send you your treasure box And this treasure box is all sorts of stuff. It's introductory samples to role-playing games. It's minis. It's scenarios for different role-playing settings. You pay a small amount per month to participate, and then you get a whole box of goodies. Well, for us, it's really exciting because it is a great way for us to relatively inexpensively get our message out there. We have postcards, which those are them in the little row. Let's see if I can do this backwards. That row. That are the introduction to Big Damn Dryden and explain where to go to get your free copy of Big Damn Dryden. We mailed them to Myth Horde, and Myth Horde sends them to everybody who is receiving Horde boxes every month. So we feel like it's a really great relationship. We really want to call those guys out. They were a lot of fun to work with. We met them through Russell Sawyer at MastCon, which is a con in North Carolina. They were there. Russell befriended them on our behalf, and then we just had a great chat with them. So it was fabulous. And speaking of Russell, we have seen for the first time the introduction to H+, which this is a really exciting and interesting project that I didn't know was coming. But Russell is very interested in transhumanism and posthumanism. I think in general, I don't know, but he got to looking at the Dryden universe, science fiction universe, and in particular at the Big Damn Dryden rule set, and he sort of said, "Well, who's doing posthumanism? What are we doing about augmented humans and humans with enhanced capabilities and moving consciousness into computers and all sorts of very interesting things that he wanted to talk about." And nobody was. So Russell decided that he'd like to do a book that is going to be a rules expansion for Big Damn Dryden, in that it will have new skins and new paths for people who are augmented humans. So it will have special rules for people who are human plus or post-human in the Dryden universe. I think it's also going to be really interesting. This sort of represents the first time that we've had somebody not through storytelling but through intentional development expand a new corner of our universe. A lot of the development that happens in our universe happens with stuff like Dan Hunt. The first time he wrote a story about Geist Marines, it was really fabulous and everybody loved it. And so now there are multiple stories about Geist Marines, and Geist Marines appear in the role-playing game and so on and so forth. So this H plus is going to be a little bit of a reversal for us. We're going to start with the interesting topic of transhumanism and posthumanism and work it backwards into Dryden. And I'm really excited about that. And that's got to be something like 10% of all projects that we're working on, but those are the ones that are in my head right now. Those are the things that I'm actually working on. Eugene, am I missing a lot of things that are like obviously missing?
Well, I always have stuff up in the air. I do. Well, we'll probably talk about that afterwards. But I do. First of all, I have been working on another. Actually writing another a story for sort of the Nightmare universe.
Okay.
It's kind of very rough right now. It's in very early stages, but it is sort of the beginning of a, hopefully the beginning of a series focused around one character.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's a big thing right now. Also, I've been working on the Okuda project.
The Okuda project. Boy, how could I forget that? Wow. Okay. Thank you. We'll come back to that. Go ahead.
I've been working on that. It's really taking very good shape in my mind. And I say taking shape in my mind. I'm also it's taking shape in my mind as I'm writing it down.
Right.
And that's coming along pretty well. One project that I have, which I just barely started. I don't know if I'll ever get around to it. Is to do and this could obviously other people could join in because I didn't start Dryden, but
Right.
do a like I say compilation, like a compendium of all the aliens in the Dryden universe, Dryden sci-fi universe at least. And I have in my mind, the aliens that I'm playing, but those aren't really in writing yet, so I wouldn't put them down yet. But obviously the Technoprey, I believe the aliens from what is it? Eclipsing of Cyrus C. Let's see what else. There aren't. I know at this time there aren't too many aliens.
Which are the
If we,
Quaharo? I can't remember their name. Quaharo, is that right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten around a chance to reading the book.
There's also an alien species in Eclipsing of Cyrus C that gets introduced.
Okay, and then also the European. And if we were going to expand it to non-humans, I know they're not aliens. You could put in the cetaceans as well.
Yep.
But I think that would be an interesting project.
Well, let's think about it. Encyclopedia of Aliens. I don't know who would do the work, but
well, I could do draft. I could do draft work for some of it, and then send it out to you guys to see what you would think. I mean, it could be collaborative.
Sure.
I don't know. It's just kind of who knows how it will take form.
Right on. Well, it's an interesting idea. We'd want to make sure that we could support it with art, or at least address the question of what art we would use. Some of our aliens are not represented in art at all at this point. Well, some of them are too. Wow, we'd have to, we might contact Joel Bewley, who did the original drawing of Dan Hunt's Alien Species, maybe, and see if he wanted to participate in some level. I don't know. It's an interesting suggestion, Eugene. Let's talk about it again. Encyclopedia of Aliens. I'll bet that Gavin would enjoy that. That sounds like a fun project, doodling up all the different aliens and writing about their characteristics. All right, well, let's back up for a minute then and talk about the Lucy Acuda story. The next project coming after Nightmares is going to be a short story collection about the improv assassin Lucy Acuda. The Lucy Acuda Appreciation Society is a Facebook fan page, and I invite you to stop by and read her history there. The thing that makes Acuda most interesting is that she was actually born, I think we decided, in the year 1066 in northern Japan, and was an Onobugeisha, which is a female warrior in Japanese society, and was eventually cloned from her remains. Her body was dug up by Synapse Biotechnology for their weapons program, and she escaped and became an assassin in the year 2503, working for Improve. And she's interesting because she has a mesh in her brain that erases all memories once she completes an assignment. So from the time you put her on an assignment until the assignment ends, she forgets the whole thing, which makes for this really interesting storytelling because she has these adventures knowing that she won't remember them when she's done. She also collects souvenirs from her adventures, and she doesn't know what they are. She owns a small asteroid out in Tianjin, and her original body is there, and her collection of memorabilia is there. She has no idea where any of it came from, except the body, of course, which she stole. But she's a really interesting character. She's very beautiful, pure Japanese stock in an era when most people are of mixed heritage, and just a real badass also. She, yeah, she's an assassin. So I've seen rough draft of one of those stories so far, but it was a completed draft, so that was very nice. So the Miss Okuda project is still coming. If you're interested in participating, we would love to have your participation. We are hoping that both Nicholas Mall and Gavin Revitt will pull out their pens for that one and write us stories. And then, of course, Gavin is doing some fabulous cover art for us. So the Miss Akuta Society, I had forgotten about that. There are a couple of other projects out there that I know are out there, but I don't know where they are, and I don't know that I have a whole lot to say about them. Kitty Sarkozy continues to work on a project involving a circus that exists in the Dryden universe. Laura Conrad is working on a book that I think will go in Nightmares. Dan Hunt is working on two different stories. He's got a short story set in Cirque space in the science fiction universe, and then he's also working on a novel that has to do with the alien species that he introduced in Threshold, which is one of the short stories in his upcoming short story collection. So he's hard at work on several projects. And that's sort of the quick introduction. Again, Eugene, I need to be asking Tracy this question because she actually knows what we're doing and what dates we're doing it on. Have I overlooked something obvious? Anything obvious?
No, no.
Okay, all right. Well, Eugene, do you have comments or things that you'd like to talk about, kind of chat and share with the universe today? If not, we're going to make this kind of a short meeting, I think.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Right on. Well, everybody, I want to remind you that the Dryden experiment is open to the Creative Commons. So if you are working on a project in the Dryden experiment, it doesn't have to come through Dryden House. It's free to go wherever it is. If you'd like our support, let us know. I am available at drydenexperiment@yahoo.com, DRYDENEXPERIMENT at yahoo.com. We had a really, really fantastic 2015. I want to make sure and just thank everybody. It was amazing. I went to put a list of thank yous on Facebook, and I cited 34 individuals in the last year who have participated in the Dryden experiment. And I don't even know how I can remember 34 people's names. That's like more social interaction than I have in a given decade. But we just worked with fantastic people. We worked with, Nick Mall from Ballarat, Australia, joined us for the first time this year. Eugene joined us. Damian Roach, who's a fabulous writer out of Massachusetts, joined us for the first time. Kitty Sarkozy joined us for the first time this year. Don Van Osdal has produced both some awesome art and some great storytelling. Joined us this year. We had new reviewers. We had Rebecca oh dear, Rebecca C. Is it Cunningham? Rebecca Rogers. Rebecca Rogers joined us. She hosted the launch party for Alder's World Part 2, which was a lot of fun this year. We just had some really dynamite time. We put I want to say we put 6 authors into print for the first time this year, their first publication, and that's something that Dryden Experiment's really, really proud of developmentally. So whoever you are, if you're out there and you're seeing what Dryden does and you're participating in Dryden some way, thank you all for a fabulous year. 2015 was really, really exciting, and we look forward to an even more dynamic and exciting 2016. So come on back, stop by the author and artist page. We're having a good time. It's a great experience. We have a lot of fun doing it. And no amount of things to say. So thank you very much for joining us for our weekly hangout, and we'll be back next week, hopefully with Tracy, and we'll have that nice 10-minute scolding while she scolds me for everything I didn't talk about tonight. That'll be exciting. Let's all look forward to that. Thank you and have a good night.